Every once in a while a game comes along and shocks the God-fearing stuff out of the 40-something Christian mom demo.
I think it'll make a person become insane.
This week that game is Hell Pie, a self-claimed obscene platformer. Seeing as I'm an obscene kind of guy and I like my games the same way, I've got to say I was intrigued. So intrigued in fact that I decided to put my early YouTube retirement on hold, dive in and get dirty. In Hell Pie you take control of Nate, the demon of bad taste, who also happens to be the cutest little demon I've ever seen. And if he wasn't competing with that sweet cat from Stray this week, or as is better known at the Sluggerfly offices, that goddamn cat game, why didn't we know a cyberpunk game where you play as a cat would take over the internet and completely eclipse our launch? Now please hold on my calls for the day, I need to have a nice cry. Nate probably would have been out there melting those icy hearts with his cool island shirt. Now when we meet Nate, he's sitting behind his desk at Sin Inc. and spends his days shaking up some milk. And as someone who loves powdered strawberry milk, I know the move well. But his easy breezy days of sitting around making thick milk are cut short when the big boss man Satan himself dials you and sets you off on a quest to make sure the chef is making a special pie for his big special birthday. But to do that you've got to go collect ingredients which are mostly just 100% gross, 0% evil, as if demons can't possibly appreciate an egg until it's been sitting out in the sun for about a month or had something die in it. But who am I to complain? I mostly live on 3 balanced meals of PB&J a day. Balanced, of course, in that they all contain the same single sandwich lovingly crafted with peanut butter and raspberry jelly that I eat on a paper towel hovering over the counter where I made it like some kind of a goblin. So my understanding of culinary chemistry might not be quite up to snuff. So after talking with the chef who gives off the same kind of gigantic daddy vibes as the king of the cosmos, and whose butt to window ratio confirms he's got 2 of the smallest legs in the biz, you're off to the supermarket to grab some pie mix, and it's at this point you're introduced to your other half and the whole game really opens up. While Nate alone can double jump, scurry up walls, and do a little dash, he's mostly stuck on the ground. But once you chain your chubby cherub Nugget to your horns, you can throw him into the air and swing freely from him. And at first it feels a little bit weird because if you don't double jump, you'll most likely find your dumb little feet right back on the ground, or sunk into lava, or sometimes you'll throw Nugget and it'll hit a wall which cancels your swing, or you'll bump into something during your swing which also cancels it, almost always resulting in your death. Or sometimes you'll swing at a wacky non-90 degree angle, which is actually just the most useless garbo, since I've only ever wanted to move forward, up, or both. Even a single extra degree of freedom is just too much. And I'll be honest, the swing can feel frustrating at times, but once you get the hang of it, you'll find that this core mechanic renders about 90% of the dev work that went into designing levels to platform on completely worthless. Now starting with only one swing, you're not really going to be feeling that level of freedom, and you should enjoy that feeling while it lasts. Enjoy needing to plan out swings and take the moving platforms before you almost completely say goodbye to the ground in the mid to late game. And seeing that the game took me around 5.5 hours to beat, it's going to come quicker than you think. So while exploring the world, there's collectibles everywhere. You've got little purple crystals you can use to buy a huge variety of costumes for Nate and Nugget from the different worlds, Unilams which you'll use to unlock new horns that I'll touch on later, golden cats which you can use to unlock doors in Greed's chambers back at Sin Inc., and finally cans of candy meat which you can use to unlock upgrades for Nugget, and this is really where the game will start to go off the rails. You see, Hell Pie is split up into 4 distinct hub worlds if you don't include Sin Inc., which I don't. Obviously, you've got Sashimi Bay, Flavor Peaks, the Jungle, and the Pearly Gates, each with their own unique assets and enemies. And if you've ever played Banjo Kazooie, Tooie, or Rare's Magnum Opus Nuts and Bolts, you'll instantly feel at home as a huge wave of nostalgia washes over you. I originally had the idea to compare this to Conker's Bad Fur Day, but after going back and replaying parts of Conker's, Hell Pie is nothing like that game, except for that some areas are a bit pooey. Hell Pie's hub worlds are just huge open areas that are filled to the brim with collectibles, and you're pretty much just set free to explore, and it's super fun. And I think the progression here is just about perfect. In the first world, you'll still only have a single swing, but as you explore the island looking for ingredients, you'll constantly be getting distracted by all the things to go and grab. And it feels like a very natural process. Before you know it, you'll be filling out your skill tree, and because there's about an extra 25 candy bits throughout the game that you'll need to unlock everything, and because some upgrades are straight useless, like the extra health ones, or the one that's been keeping me up at night wondering how the devs thought it was a skill, where you throw Nugget into the air and jump to him, but it's also like the same height as a normal jump, and if you pay for an upgrade to do it in the air, it also counts as a swing. And while editing, I realized even the ground one counts as a swing, as if it couldn't get any worse. It almost would have been better if those two were just replaced with 2 more Nugget farting skills. But the good news is that since most upgrades link directly to the next tier, you're not going to be wasting a ton of points on useless skills before you're getting into the deep upgrades. Now the most important ones are the ones that give you an extra swing, let Nugget fart, allow Nugget to regen a single swing while in the air, and let you spam a key to have Nugget dump in the elevator. The very first upgrade also adds a boost to your swing, and before you know it, you'll essentially have 5 swings, and then with the boost you can cross huge gaps or climb massive towers. Pretty much go wherever you want, only using the dumb level geometry as a resting stop to touch down for half a second and re-up your swings. And even though that might sound kind of boring and generally easy peasy, the swinging and movement is so fun, I found myself really enjoying it throughout. And since the real core of the game is collecting things around the levels, you'll mostly be using all your movement options swinging from place to place rather than skipping through entire linear sections, although to be fair, you also do that. While the hub worlds are very open, they also contain sub-levels, which are smaller indoor sections, and these also have all their own collectibles, and by completing them you'll get a pie ingredient. And even these I thought were really fun to run through. You've got this one where you use shotguns to kill lizards and ride on these sky tracks, before it all ends in a bloodbath at this super detailed mansion for a hot and fresh Scarface homage. I saw that movie. But what's really impressive is that each of these sub-levels are little unique areas with scenarios just like that, and have some pretty dang good music to go with them. Like, you might enter one and find yourself going through a human meat processing plant, or running from gluttony because the last piece of pizza slapped onto your face. Or maybe fighting Nazi turds that are trying to capture a species that exclusively eats poop. It's all very over the top and cartoony, and I think that's where Hell Pie gets a lot right. Just like Conker, a lot of the humor is stupid and gross, but it's always played for a laugh. And it's not any worse than anything you might see on Adult Swim or South Park. I mean, you've got dongs, pooses, butts, gore, poop, and a lot of religious junk, but it works because it's baked into the entire experience. I mean, instead of sticking dongs on humans and calling it a day, they design creatures for the world that look like little dongs. It's creative and it's funny, and sure, it's childish, but that's about 95% of what you're getting out of Hell Pie. Now, would I let a baby play this? No. I would never let a gross baby touch my keyboard with his weird little hands. But I mean, this is the exact same kind of stuff I would stay up to watch in my teens, and if I were to ever have kids, then as their theoretical absentee father, I would absolutely, probably let them play it. And even if you don't find a single thing in the game funny, it's still mechanically fun to play, so there's a little something for everyone. Now, before I get into the end game, I want to talk about the horns you unlock as Nate, and why 4 of the 6 are actually god-awful. So starting the game, Nate has his classic demon horns, and by activating them, you get a little black and white view that shows you points of interest. And that could be sub-levels, or other horns to unlock, or teleports that you can use to move quickly around the hub world, but for some reason not between hub worlds or back to Sin Inc., as if that's far beyond our modern capabilities. So it's sort of helpful, but not really, since everything's also marked on your map. What would have really made him great is if they also highlighted missing collectibles that are close to you, but as they are now, they just turn everything gray. But after arriving at Sashimi Bay, one of the first things you'll do is sacrifice a sweet Unilamb to this statue and unlock the boost horns. And from then on, there's just about no reason to ever switch. When activated, they instantly increase your move speed by a huge amount, and that speed carries into the air. So they're the perfect set to complement the swinging, and they just make getting anywhere way more fun because walking is for absolute chumps. Next, you've got these light horns, which are only used to open light gates, which contain platform challenge levels, like this one where you're supposed to use the light horns to see, but by using the power of regular eyesight, you can manage just fine. Then you've got these horns that are arms and let you slide from predetermined place to predetermined place. Also shit, because teleporters exist, and even just running and swinging is way more fun. Then the one that should have been the best one, especially for the cost of 18 Unilambs, the wing horns. These stop your downward movement in the air and let you glide for a bit before going away, but even if you glide for a single frame, you can't pop them again in the air, and they don't reset until you touch the ground again, so they're actually useless. They should really be the most overpowered game-breaking pair and just reset between swings, and honestly, I hope they patch them because I was so excited collecting all the stuff for them for like an hour, thinking I was going to be pretty much flying across the entire map in one go, living my demon of bad taste Jancy, and I really can't describe the disappointment that I can only fly at the level of a 2-week-old baby bird. And since having any other horn besides the boosters equipped means that you're running at normal speed, it's just not worth it. Sure, you can swap instantly, but why would you? Then the final one that actually gets some use are the ram horns, and you pretty much only whip those out to bust down breakable walls before swapping back. Luckily though, they really nailed the boost horn, so if nothing else, I like that the other horns give you something to work towards. You at least have a tangible goal while collecting everything, which carried me through the entire campaign. By the time the credits rolled, I'd collected a pretty solid 89% of everything, along with every ingredient, and I was pretty happy. At that point though, I was faced with the choice of shutting down the game or pushing for that last 11%, and I chose poorly. Heading back into Hell, I checked my maps, which told me exactly what I was missing in each world and sub-level. Should be a quick job, right? Wrong. What followed was a 6-hour play session, which is literally longer than it took me to finish the entire game, going from place to place, scrubbing every inch to find the last few things. And this is when Hell Pie turned on me. I loved the first 5.5 hours, and now I was starting to wonder if I was in the bad place. The levels are so big, and there's no indication what area of the hub world a tiny little golden cat might be in, so you've got to inspect every nook and cranny yourself, and I mean really inspect. I don't know how many times I thought I cleared an area only to return 15 minutes later and find something hidden somewhere totally stupid, and by the time you're down to the last few things, it's honestly maddening. In Sashimi Bay, I had everything but one candy meat, and I really tried, but eventually I had to give in and take a peek at my man Trophy Tom's homework. But to my horror, Trophy Tom had been a naughty boy, and instead of finding the 24th candy meat, he used a bug to dupe the meat. Well, my meat wouldn't dupe, would it, Tom? So what do you do when you can't even cheat? Well, you get your little demon buns out there and you grind. Recheck every cave, every treetop, every island, over and over. Well, in the end, I did find the 24th candy meat, and let me tell you, there were no signs, there were no hints. Just 3 bongos sitting in a hippie village. It's actually a game design mystery that the devs ever thought people would figure these things out, as if everyone playing Hell Pie is going to have the patience of a saint and the IQ of a Hawking. And if you're wondering if I'm implying I fit into that group, the answer is yes, of course, you absolute dumb idiot. Now feel free to ride my victorious coattails into the Hell Pie Trophy Hall of Fame. You see, each hub world contains a music puzzle which will give you a candy meat when completed. You've just got to stumble upon them and hit them in these sequences. And while I can't explain my methods, and by that I mean I genuinely couldn't explain how the whistle one is meant to work if my life depended on it. I mean, I was convinced it had something to do with these mountains that are arranged in a specific way, but as I found out, the real solution was just to brute force it until candy meat popped out of the ground. And the sub-levels aren't that much better either, since most are super linear without any teleports, and some have one-way blocks, so you gotta be super careful clearing rooms. Otherwise, the backtracking and then subsequent forward tracking when you realize that room actually was clear will be a total pain in the butt. What's even worse is it seems this game took its toll on Trophy Tom, who didn't prepare any videos for the later sections of the game, so past this second world, you're on your own for finding everything. It ends up being a very classic experience, but the final cleanup, without any extra tools like horn showing collectibles, will test your patience in a way you might not be prepared for. I mean, I consider myself a very old and very hard gamer, and I barely made it through. So almost 12 hours later, I fully finished Hell Pie, and even though I ended up accidentally torturing myself, I still really adored the game, and without a doubt, it's a game I'll be revisiting again. It's one of the best 3D platforms I've played since Mario Odyssey, and it feels like a love letter to Rare that all the millennials out there who grew up platforming on N64 can get into. If it looks cool to you, pick it up, you'll love it, and like any good advice from a stranger on the internet, maybe let's not tell your mom about this one. Thanks for checking out the video, and don't forget to subscribe within the next 6 to 8 months so you don't miss the next one.
Why would they even make something like this?